The first time she asked me to spot her, I thought my heart was going to give out before the weights did. She was the girl I had secretly noticed for months, the one who always trained with quiet determination, headphones on, hair tied back, never looking around for attention. And there I was, standing behind her at the squat rack, trying desperately to act normal while every part of me was screaming with nervousness. She glanced at me through the mirror, smiled, and with a playful confidence that completely disarmed me, she said I could come closer. I took one careful step forward, but what happened next had nothing to do with the weight on the bar. It was the beginning of a story neither of us expected. If you believe that kindness, courage, and second chances can change someone's life, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. You never know when a simple moment can become someone's second chance at happiness. Her name was Emma, and I had been going to the same neighborhood gym for almost a year. I wasn't the loud guy who walked around flexing in front of mirrors or trying to impress everyone. I was there because working out had become my escape. 6 months earlier, my life had fallen apart after losing my job at a small construction company. My confidence disappeared with it. I stopped answering friends' calls, stopped making plans, and spent most evenings wondering how someone could go from feeling secure to feeling completely lost so quickly. The gym became the one place where nobody cared about my problems. The weights didn't ask what I did for a living. The treadmill didn't care whether I was successful. I could simply show up, sweat, and leave feeling like I had accomplished something. Emma always seemed to understand that feeling. She trained alone, but there was something about the way she pushed herself that made her impossible not to notice. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She simply refused to give up. I started seeing her almost every evening around 7. Sometimes we exchanged a quick smile. Sometimes she asked if I was finished with a machine. Once, she handed me the water bottle I had accidentally left behind. Those tiny moments became strangely important to me. I never told her I liked her because, honestly, I didn't think I had anything worth offering. I was unemployed, uncertain, and still trying to rebuild myself. Emma looked like someone who had her entire life together. Then one rainy Thursday evening, the gym was unusually quiet. I was finishing a set of squats when Emma walked toward the rack. She pointed at the bar and asked if I could spot her. My stomach tightened immediately. I said yes, trying to sound casual. She loaded the plates, stepped beneath the bar, and adjusted her position. I stood behind her, keeping enough distance to respect her space. She looked at me through the mirror and smiled. Then she told me I could come closer. I stepped forward, and suddenly I was close enough to hear her breathing between reps. I kept my hands ready without touching her, exactly as a responsible spotter should. She completed the set, re-racked the weight, and turned around with a grin. She thanked me, but instead of walking away, she asked how long I had been coming to the gym. That simple question changed everything. We started talking. At first, it was about workouts, then music, favorite foods, terrible gym playlists, and eventually life. I discovered that Emma didn't have everything figured out either. She had once been engaged to someone she thought she would spend the rest of her life with. 3 months before their wedding, he had left her for someone else. She told me she spent weeks wondering what was wrong with her. Eventually, she realized that being abandoned didn't mean she was unworthy of love. She had started training because she needed somewhere to put all the anger and sadness she couldn't explain. I understood her more than I expected. 2 broken people can recognize each other without saying the words. Our conversations became longer. Sometimes we would sit outside the gym after closing, sharing cheap coffee from the convenience store nearby. She encouraged me to apply for jobs even when I told her I was tired of rejection. I helped her prepare for a certification exam she had been too afraid to take. Little by little, something inside me started changing. I wasn't suddenly successful or confident, but I began waking up with purpose again. Then came the day I got another rejection email. It was for a job I desperately wanted, and I felt the old emptiness return. I almost skipped the gym that night. But Emma noticed something was wrong the moment I walked in. I tried pretending I was fine, but she didn't believe me. She sat beside me and reminded me that one rejection couldn't decide my future. Then she told me something I never forgot: sometimes life closes a door because you're too busy standing in front of it to notice another one opening. The next morning, I applied to a small engineering supply company that I had previously ignored because I thought I wasn't qualified enough. 2 weeks later, they called me. I got the job. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a beginning. Emma was the first person I told. She hugged me without hesitation, and for the first time in months, I felt proud of myself. But just when life seemed to be moving forward, Emma stopped coming to the gym. 1 day became 3. 3 became a week. I worried that I had somehow done something wrong, but I didn't want to invade her privacy. Finally, she messaged me and asked if we could meet. We sat at the same little coffee shop where we'd shared so many conversations. She told me her mother had been diagnosed with a serious illness, and Emma had been spending nearly every free moment helping her family. She looked exhausted. The confident woman from the gym seemed suddenly fragile. I told her she didn't have to be strong every second. I told her she could be tired. She could cry. She could be scared. She didn't have to carry everything alone. I didn't offer solutions because there were none. I simply stayed. Sometimes that's the greatest thing one person can give another, not advice, not money, not promises, but presence. Months passed. Her mother slowly recovered, and Emma returned to the gym. One evening, she walked toward the squat rack and looked at me with the same playful smile from that first night. She asked if I remembered the first time she asked me to spot her. I laughed and told her there was no chance I could forget. She smiled and said she had known from the beginning that I was nervous. I asked how she knew. She said because I was trying so hard to hide it. Then she told me something that made my heart stop. She said she hadn't asked me to spot her because she needed help with the weight. She had asked because she wanted an excuse to talk to me. I stood there speechless. All those months I had believed I was invisible to her, while she had been quietly noticing me too. She reminded me that I had been there during one of the hardest chapters of her life, and she hoped I understood that she wanted to be there during mine. A year after that first night, we stood together outside the gym in the cool evening air. I had a stable job. Emma had completed her certification. Her mother was doing well. Neither of us had a perfect life, but neither of us was searching for perfection anymore. We had learned that love isn't always some dramatic moment under perfect circumstances. Sometimes love begins with two people who are struggling, meeting in an ordinary place, and deciding not to walk away when life gets difficult. Emma leaned against my shoulder and smiled. I thought about how afraid I had been that night at the squat rack. I had been terrified of getting too close because I thought I wasn't good enough. But she had taught me something I desperately needed to learn. Sometimes the distance we create isn't protecting us from rejection. It's protecting us from the possibility of being loved. And that's what made that simple sentence so unforgettable. She hadn't just told me I could come closer physically. In her own quiet way, she had been telling me that I could come closer to her life, her fears, her hopes, and her heart. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps these stories reach people who may be silently fighting battles of their own. Before the ending, I want to ask you something special. Comment, "I choose to come closer," if you believe that real love begins when two people stop being afraid to let each other in. Sometimes the person standing beside you isn't there by accident. Sometimes the hardest season of your life is quietly leading you toward the person who will remind you that you're still worthy of happiness. And sometimes, all it takes is one brave step closer to discover that the person you've been afraid to approach has been waiting for you to take that step all along.